You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt McGachy, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the audio version of the podcast. Thank you so much for hanging out. I super appreciate you. Today, I'm talking to a man named Carlos Lopez, who is a rather unique example of someone building up a name for themselves in a super high-end custom shop, specifically the Fender Custom Shop. And then, instead of sticking with the tried and true nature of the big corporate entity, he struck out on his own to form his own brand called Castedosa Guitars. And these things are absolutely gorgeous works of art. They are incredibly beautiful. And I think you're really going to like his story, which is why I wanted to get him on and go over this whole tale, because it is quite the saga. And we will definitely do that ASAP. I have just a couple small bits of business to get into before we do. First of all, it's already mid-January, if you can believe that. And if you order from Stringjoy before the end of the month, if you need some strings and you order from Stringjoy before the end of the month, that will put your name in the hat to win a Gibson SG. We're giving away a Gibson SG. You can find the details on our website. There are some things to go over, so go check that out. If you are interested in winning a really rad guitar, go check that out. And you need strings anyway, so why not, right? And then the final thing is, if you like these conversations, but you want to get them in video form, I have been consistently publishing the video versions over on the Tone Mob YouTube channel. It's kind of a new thing, and it's not necessarily my preferred way to consume a podcast, but a lot of people have really been enjoying those. So I am putting them out over there. The feedback's been really great, and I will keep doing that as long as people keep watching them. Additionally, I am putting out other content there as well. So it's usually one podcast video and one other video, a demo, a vlog, a informational bit, something else is going on over on the Tone Mob YouTube channel every single week. So if you want even more content, please go subscribe over there. Please help support that. That is a big thing that I'm trying to push along this year. And I would really appreciate any help in doing so. So yeah. All right, without further ado, let's get into this episode with Carlos. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today I have Carlos Lopez from Castedosa Guitars. What's going on, dude?
Good. Everything's good. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Nice. Pretty good. I really can't complain. I'm busy in all the right ways, so that makes me happy, you know?
Nice. Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it. And, this weird little community that we're in, it feels like a club, you know what I mean? It's like, and it's really cool just to kind of feed off everybody's different skills and interests, but it's all kind of under the same umbrella. So it's pretty neat
right
to see, especially like in the antique world, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is a lot even like the consumers like myself will support, multiple builders that they really like. And it's a very small niche-y thing, but it's a beautiful thing, and it's fun to be a part of for sure.
Yeah.
But you've been involved for a very long time. I wanted to have you on not only to talk about what you're doing today, but how you even got to this point, because I say the same term a lot with a bunch of different people, but people don't generally just wake up one day and find themselves to be a master builder in the Fender Custom Shop, So how did you even, I know that's where most people knew you from initially, but how did you even get there? How does one get to that position? I think that's a bit of a dark hole that nobody fully understands unless you've been there.
Yeah. I really don't even know myself. I think it's just you know, a lot of luck and hard work and, timing, I guess, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know where do you want to start? I could start from, I guess, the
We can
beginning.
start. Let's start early. Like, when did you pick up the instrument in the first place?
Well, I don't know. I think the last couple of years I've noticed a lot about myself. It's a lot of kind of, you know, I guess knowing yourself and just
Mm-hmm.
knowing who you are. I've always been um, interested in how things work, but now I'm interested in how I work, I guess, and why I do the things I do and why I think the way that I think. And I guess
Mm-hmm.
looking back on it, I was always dedicated to one thing, you know. And so early
Right.
on, I was very much into like martial arts and boxing, and I thought that's what I was going to do. And for some reason, I didn't have any other um, motivation to do anything. I liked competition and I like fighting, and so I dedicated my whole childhood to that. And not knowing why I did that, I just did it, and I loved it. And I wasn't one to do one thing and quit and do another thing. So it really taught me a lot of discipline, and so I got to a point in my boxing career where I noticed, I wasn't doing as well as I thought I would, and I was getting, I guess, hit too much, and so I started
Mm-hmm.
having some, you know, issues, with getting hit, and
Sure.
so,
Yeah.
but
That'll do that. Yeah.
but at that time, it was probably in the beginning of high school. I started playing guitar and taking lessons, so I was doing two things at once. And it's one of those things where, you can't serve two masters type of thing. And so little by little,
Mm-hmm.
music and guitar took over. And I made the hard decision of, I guess, retiring or quitting um, boxing. And so, because my goal was to become a professional boxer. And, and
Right.
it's just like thinking about it now, it's just not something, a kid thinks about. You know what I mean? Maybe they do, but when you get to an age where you have to make a decision, you're going to go to college or what are you going to be? I thought in my head, I want to be a professional boxer. That's what I want to do, and I dedicated my body and my mind to that. But then I realized I loved something else, and so guitar took over at
Mm-hmm.
that point. And and it was kind of early on, it was just like in the 90s. It was Kurt Cobain and Pearl Jam and Sunny Day Real Estate and all these bands that I loved and that were associated with guitar. And
Right.
I had pictures of Kurt Cobain on my wall, and it was a weird time. It's funny because it's like I grew up in East LA, and predominantly, Chicano, Mexican American, that culture. But then, you can't get away from, American pop culture. And so I was surrounded by that. That's what I liked. But then, my parents, because my daddy's from Central America. And so we always had like tropical, like cumbia, salsa, in the home. And so just coming up, was just surrounded by music, different genres is everywhere. And so so the love of music was the first thing. And I started playing in bands in high school and doing the whole, LA kind of scene, club scene, and which was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I wanted to be in it, but I realized I wasn't that great of a guitar player to be competitive in it. So I, and so I just, I knew I wanted to be in the industry, but didn't know how. And so my mom, she found an ad in the paper about guitar building classes. And at the time, I had a family friend that went to the first, I guess, it was like the first course of the the GCA program. And so I would take all my guitars to him, and not knowing at the time that I'd be going there. So he told me a little bit about it. And so I really just kind of dove into it, just naive and ignorant about the whole thing. But, I wasn't really good at it at the first try, and my guitar came out pretty, and, but I loved it though, and I didn't give up. And that was, I guess, one thing about me is I never give up. And when I fail at something, it just gives me more motivation to become better at it, and so I guess that was the case. And so I got lucky really early on to know people that worked at Fender. And and so when I graduated that course at MI, I went to go apply for a position at Fender, and I got it. And right after graduating, I got my my foot through the door there. And
what position was that?
I was in the assembly line, just doing all of the I guess like the standard models at the time. I think that the Highway 1 guitar was the newest model, so I remember doing those.
Okay.
And and just all of I forget what they called them back then, but it was just like the vintage series, I guess. And so that got me, that was the start really. And so I kind of just worked my way up, and not really knowing where I was going to go. But then, I built a shop in my house very early on. And so when I would, do my shift at Fender, I would go home and kind of mess around and just acquire different tools and machinery. And like I got a lot of really cool, like old machinery on Craigslist, and that was kind of fun hunting for stuff like that. But so I really just worked my way up, and and so the custom shop is kind of its own identity within Fender. And so you would see, all these guys going into this, it looked like a secret club, and not everybody could go in, And so I was always on the outside. So there was always like this allure to it, this mystique to it, and prestige. And then, the more that I learned and the more history that I gained, knowing where it came from, where they came from, who's in there, it just made it even more special to just, it gave me a direction where to go. You know what I mean? There's something to achieve. And so that's what I did. I worked really hard to be the best at the position I was at. And, just having that foundation that I gained from the guitar building course, it gave me a good foundation to start from. And so a lot of it I had to learn myself, and a lot of gleaning just came from just watching, people doing the things that they do in different positions. And so it was very, it was just it was a cool time for me. And, very early on, when I got the job, I just, I wanted to have a family, and I wanted to be married. And, so my goal was to have something to offer, my future wife and all that. So I think that's why I worked as hard as I did. And, I lived in LA, and Corona is about, an hour away. So I would commute for, like 14, 15 years, that commute. And, I did it, and, the shift started at 5, and I think sometimes 4. So I have to get up at 3 or 2, to be there on time.
That's brutal.
And so, but it was kind of eye opening, because, a handful of guys that went to the same program, they got the job, but slowly, and, they all kind of just disappeared. They couldn't handle they couldn't handle the commute, or they made excuses why they couldn't do it, or they tried to find a different path. But, I stuck with it and I persevered. I believe, and I worked really hard to, to become what I guess I am now. And so the custom shop was my goal. And so I remember going to the director at the time and showing him my guitar that I made at MI, and, just full of ignorant confidence and saying, this is what I made, I belong in here type of thing. You know what I mean? And so just
Right.
sometimes you got to put yourself out there, and, and you can't wait for people to open doors for you. Sometimes you got to kick them through and let people notice.
100%.
And so that's what I did. And, I didn't have the skills at the time, but I knew that's where I wanted to be. And I wanted to be a master builder at that point. And so, but it took a long time to get there. And I had to show my worth, and I had to work hard, and I had to do multiple things and learn multiple things to even be noticed, And so it's just when you're at that level of craftsmanship, if people like that notice you and they see you working, hustling and learning, there's no way they could deny you, And so that's
Mm-hmm.
basically what I did. I just honed in, read a lot. I went to some college courses on CAD and programming, and I just kept learning every day, and being around such great builders like Scott Buell and Paul Waller and Todd Krause, Yuri Shishkov, Greg Fessler, all these guys. They've been there since the 80s, and they're really because at the time, like Jackson or Charvel, Dwayne Charvel and Jackson, Grover Jackson, they were the first custom shop, in the 80s that were doing the things that is, common now. They were taking Strats and putting Floyds on it, and, doing the hot rod stuff, and, doing the V's, and they did all that stuff. They were the pioneers of that. And Fender took notice of it. And that's when they started their own custom shop, I think in 87. And so, but Jackson was they were just killing it back then. They opened up a new market, a new world for guitar builders. And they kind of made a blueprint of what's possible. You know what I mean? And so those guys kind of trickled into Fender when Fender bought them. And so like Todd and Scott, they were there at Fender. They were at the birth of the whole, customization type of thing. And so that was really cool to know people that have been there at the genesis of something. And those guys are my friends, mentors, brothers. And so it's really cool just to know that I could call somebody and say, hey, how do I figure this out? How do I do this? So, and so that's what I did. I asked a lot of questions, made a lot of mistakes, and kind of fine tuned what I was good at, because, I'm really kind of an idiot, but I have this feel thing.
I can relate.
I don't know how to explain it. Like I could feel things, and I know when things are right, and I have an eye for aesthetic, and I don't know the math. I just know how to do it. I don't know. I can't explain it. I know when something feels right, and I know when something doesn't. I know when something sounds wrong, and I know when something sounds right. And I've even with like tone from an amp, I had a lot of experience with Marshalls and trying to dial in a good tone out of a Marshall, because when you watch like Spinal Tap and they tell you to put it all to 11, You know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't sound good. And it's like, this is the sound that everybody's looking for. And so it took a lot of experimenting and, and trying to get a good tone. And so, but all that stuff, like, I didn't know I was going to use it. And I didn't know what I was going to do with this. I thought I was just useless knowledge because of, but it wasn't. It's just all these things that I was doing, like, trying to find a good tone was shaping. It had everything to do with it, I guess, And so I don't, so I worked my way up, worked in the custom shop, as the team built, and I was kind of like the head, builder there that was helping. I did everything in there. I learned everything, and it took me a long time to really perfect what I was doing at that time. And so I got noticed. It took a long time for people to notice me, but I got to a point where I got so ahead of everybody that you couldn't deny me, even if you wanted to. And when I got that position as a master builder, or even working with Todd, was really cool because we had a lot of cool projects together. He worked. I've made guitars and I've helped make guitars with him for Eric Clapton and Robbie Robertson, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, David Gilmour, like anybody that you could think of, and that's kind of rock royalty. Like I've had my hand in it, and Todd has trusted me enough to represent him, and he would show me how he does things, and it was really cool just to see little by little how much they like Todd would trust me to do big projects like that. So that was really neat.
That's incredible.
That was a highlight of mine.
That's really cool.
It was awesome. And it's just like this little Mexican kid from East LA, working with these big rock and roll stars. It's like, it's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Cause I'm a nobody, and I just, and that's, I want to carry myself that way, I guess. You know what I mean? That keeps me grounded and humble, because all this could just end tomorrow. You know what I mean? I know that it's very nichey, and it's very hard to sell art. And it's not a necessity, and I realize that. But I've carved out a space for myself in this industry where it's valuable, and my guitars are worth something, and because they're worth so much to me. You know what I mean? Like, if I would, every guitar that I make is made by me. I don't plan on doing a high production run. I don't plan on doing a low cost build and having my guitars made in China or anything like that. I'm so obsessed and controlling over what I do that I need to be a part of every guitar that goes out. And so, and people are seeing that, and they're feeling that. And, it's hard to recreate something and teach somebody everything that you've learned and trust them that it's going to come out the same way all the time. And so I think that's what makes my guitar special now, is that every guitar is it's made by me. And then you could tell by the feel and the look of it. And so that's, it's a cool thing to be a part of. But anyways, the whole Fender years was great. I did a lot and in a small amount of time, but I've been there for almost 2 decades, and it was a great learning experience, and it was a lot of hard work to kind of fight for what you want. But that's what I did. It was a lot of fighting, and but it was if you're surrounded by people that are talented and competitive, you have to fight for it. You know what I mean? It's almost like living with a big family. You got to fight for your meal. You know what I mean? You got to fight for your space. So that's what it was like.
I wanted to ask you something, because in this story you've explained a lot of you've explored rather, like, the fact that you have a lot of tenacity, and you put your mind to something and you keep at it. And I was curious, in your estimation, how much of that comes from your fighting background, or how much of that comes from just you as a person? That's just the way you are. Because I think in either of those pursuits, you have to really want it. If you don't really want to be a professional boxer, there's no way you're going to be a professional boxer. You're not going to accidentally become a professional boxer, just like you're not going to accidentally become a master builder. It has to be very intentional, and you have to really put your mind to it. How much of that do you think was developed through fighting, or versus how much is just in you as a person?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think, I think that's why I've like recently been trying to figure out like why I am the way that I am and why I think the way that I think. And I think it has a lot to do with my personality, and then also just being able to, listen to people that are wiser and taking direction. It's the discipline of it, you know what I mean, and the respect with boxing. And I think that's kind of transitioned into the guitar thing. It was the same thing, because I had senseis or trainers. They were just, I respected them, and I respected them as men, and they showed me, and especially with my father. I respect my father, and he was hard, and he was loving, and he was all that. He showed me what I need to do, but to become a man, I suppose. And same thing with boxing. It was, they're preparing me, and they're hard on me, because in the ring, you're in there by yourself, and you need to learn how to protect yourself and develop your strength, and never give up, because a lot of it is who you are in the ring. Is if you're somebody that gives up, you're going to give up, because there's fatigue sets in, and it's a lot of will, and sometimes you have to will yourself to the finish line. You know what I mean? And if you don't, it's very much like the Rocky story. You know what I mean? He never gave up. That's what made him great. He wasn't the greatest, but he never gave up, and he got, as many times as he got knocked down, he got back up, and he never gave up. And that's kind of really my story, I guess. It's just in many ways. Yeah, I've been knocked down, but I always gave up. I mean, I never gave up. I just kept going, and so I could. It's really just like it reflects life, really. That's what, to me, boxing does. So.
Hi, I'm Vincent, and I'm here to talk about the Mercury X. My dad's always going on and on about how cool Maris is. He really went off on one about the Mercury X the other day. He said something about a 4,800 hertz sample rate and 99 preset locations and 33 banks, and something along the lines of the most advanced reverb pedal ever devised by man? That's all true, but I only care about one thing. This pedal sounds sick. So make sure you check out the Mercury X and all the other fine products at maris.us, as well as fine retailers worldwide. All right, Dad, now can I have my Pocky?
How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services, and it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. Yeah. Yeah. Our youngest son is named Rocky, and some people are like Rocky Balboa. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Like, I love those movies because of that story.
Yeah.
I know it's a character. I know it's not real, but I do think that it teaches an important lesson, right?
It
It
does.
is like, it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep
Oh, yeah.
coming. Like,
Big time.
that's pretty
No.
undeniable, because you're going to get hit in
Oh, yeah.
life. You're going to have things that set you back. You're going to have
Yeah.
problems. And are you going to curl up and die, or are you going to push
Yeah.
forward? And I really appreciate somebody that has the mindset of like, no, this ain't it. We're going,
Yeah.
you know, because it's a lot easier just to stop,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and that's part of why I'm able to do what I do. I wanted to be in this industry so bad, and I had no idea how to get into it. So I just I've said it before, I've just kind of wedged my way in, whether
Yeah.
whether I was invited or not. Fortunately, it's a very welcoming space in general. But I was just like, I don't know what to do. I love guitars. I love gear. I love all this stuff so much. I just want to work on it and be a part of it all the time.
Yeah.
And now that's the reality. But it took working 3 full-time
Yeah.
jobs for several
Yeah.
years to be able to get there. And so I really appreciate that story. But what made you decide it was time to break off and strike out on your own? Because that is a different kind of scary versus
Yeah. And
just trying to move upward through an organization.
yeah. And that's the thing with me. Like, I don't know. I'm not fearful of things like that. You know what I mean? And some people kind of fold under the pressure or the fearfulness of the unknown. But I've never been like that. I'm fearful, but the things I'm fearful of, I want to kind of contend with it. Well, for example, like I was very fearful of motorcycles, and so I learned how to ride, and I got a Triumph Speed Triple just to conquer that fear.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? It's just like,
yeah,
I was scared, but I wanted to conquer that. I don't want to be scared. You know what I mean? I don't like fear. And so I kind of just, I kind of stand up to it, I guess. I don't know. That's just how I am, I guess. But, yeah, so and just like everybody went through something during the pandemic and the lockdowns and for me, it was just losing a bunch of people. And it was, that I cared about. And I just, I don't know. I don't think I've ever talked about this, but being at Fender, there's at that level that I was at, there's an allure and there's a temptation. It feeds your ego. It's, excuse me. It, it's very easy to get trapped in that world because of, the attention and the things that come along with that prestigious title. And, it's very, I don't even know how to explain it. It's almost like you could lose yourself very quickly in that and believe the hype. And, and it's when a lot of, money's flowing around and, you got rock stars calling you up and, you're rubbing shoulders with, the who's who in the industry, and it becomes a different world and you become a different person. And I noticed that about myself. I was starting to change and I didn't like it. And, and so my relationship with my wife at the time it wasn't as strong as I wanted it to be. I felt like I was losing her. And, and then the pandemic hit, everything stopped, and you have to, and I assessed what am I doing? Is this what I'm going to do? Is this what I worked for to become this? And, even with all the, the glitz and the glamour, it was a lot of hard work, but, I after losing a couple friends to COVID and, things that were changing in the shop, I I made that decision. I think I made the decision for my wife because I want, if I don't have like a good home or a happy life and I just have this thing, like, what do I have? I don't have anything, it's just superficial. And, like looking back on it, I think I chose my wife, you know what I mean? I chose her over that title. And it was, and it wasn't, you know, I built myself up and, enough where I knew I had something special and I knew that I had something that you can't teach. And, and that thing I've noticed is just the eye and the feel for aesthetic. And, just doing it so long, it's really second nature to me. But the look and feel of things, you can't really teach. And, I've noticed that I think I've got that trait from my mom, because my mom's very artistic and she kind of thinks outside the box. And my grandmother was like that as well. And so I feel like I got that from my mom and my grandmother. And so when you look at my guitars and, it's just, I'm not trying to, puff myself up or anything, but it's just because I feel the same way about them. When I look at my guitars and I see them in the right angles and, it looks good. It makes you want to play it. It looks fancy. You know what I mean? There's the artisticness and, an aesthetic to my guitars that draws people in. And then on top of that,
oh yeah.
And then on top of that, there's a story behind it. And the story is, I think it inspires people. You know what I mean? It just, it came from a place where, I wanted to create something with my wife and my family, create my own legacy and start from scratch really. And that's what I did. And, sometimes when you jump into the unknown, you really don't know what's there, but you won't find out until you do it, and that's why it was another thing. Are you going to let fear, place you in where you don't want to be, or you're going to take the leap of faith and see what you could create, and your destiny is kind of in your own hands at that point.
Yeah, I love this story so much because it's reminding me of myself in several years ago, because I just remember being at the job I was at and going, man, I don't like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I still don't. It's a good job. It was everything that it was supposed to be, but I was like, why am I still like bummed most of the time? Why am I not in? I'm only happy when I'm home. I'm not happy here. And it's not innate. It wasn't innately toxic or bad or anything. It just had nothing to do with anything that I cared about at all. And I realized, oh, well, I put myself here. I did everything in my power to get to this job and this position. Every single step, every single interview, every single anything I ever did was to get a job like the one I had. And I realized, well, if you can get to that point, you can probably get to a different point if you start working on it. You just take that first step. You just start going. You start diving into the unknown, and you make those mistakes and you learn from them, hopefully. You really can't let the fear of the unknown stop you. You've got to provide for your family, and you've got to do what you have to do in that regard. But I think a lot of people get trapped in that box and realize they don't realize rather that these things can work out, and you don't necessarily have to jump in both feet first. You can baby step it to get to where you want to go as well. It's like you did, you acquired the tools and things slowly over time to where you realized, oh, I have everything I need to make these things. Now, it wasn't like you just took out hundreds of thousands of dollars immediately. You did it slowly over time until you saw a point where it made sense to actually take the leap. And I think a lot of people need to realize that it's not all or nothing.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you work on it, you develop your craft, you keep working on it, whatever it is, doesn't matter what the project is. And eventually you'll get to a point where you can see how it actually pencils and makes sense. It doesn't have to be this whole rip the Band-Aid off thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it went. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So since you have been on your own now, have there been any new lessons? You're like, oh, well, I was working for this large company and insulated from, books and, taxes and things. Like, were there any lessons you learned after taking that leap that you would pass on to another potential small business owner?
Oh yeah, there's a lot. There's every day learn something, Luckily I have, a good support system with Stephanie. And so she's taken a lot of responsibility on the business part of it, with invoices and figuring out, what licenses we need and all that stuff. And, so she's really grown into her own. But yeah, there's a lot of things that I've learned, how to manage your time, how to manage your money, how to manage inventory, how to schedule, just all these little things that you take for granted when you're working at a big company, like I was, and, just the smallest things, but I've learned, not to take little steps, you know what I mean? You don't need to, take out a big loan and get a big old factory. I'm starting off small and it's already outgrown my space already. But I'm not in a rush to I'm not in a rush to get myself in debt and to make a stupid decision. I'm taking it slow and we're having a good time with it. And, we don't have to worry about, a lot of things anymore, but there's a lot of things we have to worry about now, but it's a fun ride though. And it's doing it with Stephanie has just made it more worth it. And, I didn't realize at the time where, I was spending most of my time with, the guys at the shop more than I was with my wife and my kids. And so now being at home and being with my family full time and seeing them every day, you have to readjust and you have to get to know that person again. You know what I mean? And so I've really gotten to know Stephanie, and we've gotten really close, in the past year. We're really close now, and we're at a place in our marriage where, I see her differently. Like we love each other differently, and we're inseparable now. You know what I mean? Like I can't, like when she's gone or she's going out, like I miss her, and I can't. I don't want her to be away from me, and the same with her, and that's really unique because I never felt like that before. You know what I mean? It was like, let me just go. I can't wait to get out of here because I want to go do, whatever I was going to do. And so I think maybe it was just immaturity and selfishness, but I've learned to kind of give up myself for her. And it's the best thing that I've ever done in my life, I think. You know what I mean? And having kids and raising them, not having somebody else raise them, it made it all worth it to give up, to sacrifice something for the greater good, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the kid thing hit especially home because I was in that other job is when my first son was born, and he's still not very old, but he's 7, and then I've been home since Rocky was born, and I constantly tell my wife, I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much I was missing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I knew I was missing stuff, but I was still, home when I wasn't going out and partying or anything like that, you know, by the time I was having Vincent, our oldest. But with Rocky, just like the little things, just the little funny things that I get to experience on a daily basis now.
Yeah.
I'm constantly amazed how much I missed with Vincent when he was that age. And I thought I was getting a lot of it, but I really wasn't.
Yeah.
I was only getting about a quarter, maybe at best, of his experiences. And I realized that saying that, that's what most people's experiences are. That's certainly what my dad's experience was. You know, he definitely had a more than full-time job while I was a little kid, you know, and he missed a lot of that stuff as well. What was nice though is by the time I was like 12-ish, he was working for himself, and he did so for about 12 years. So the whole time during the really formative years of my life and my sister's life, he was around way more
that's good.
than average. Yeah. But he did realize after we were out of the house that, and this is kind of speaking to, we've talked about how similar we are, and there's a different type of person out there too, and that's my dad. He's not the entrepreneur type. He doesn't like running the business. He didn't like it. He never did like it. He'll tell you he's never really that good at it, but he did it for a while, and he knew enough about himself that like, hey, this isn't for me. I want to punch a clock, go in, do my job, punch out, and not have to think about this anymore, and just live my life that way. And I totally respect that, and I understand a lot of people are that way. But this keeps coming up a lot. This little saying that I heard one time, that an entrepreneur is somebody who will work 80 hours so they don't have to work a 40. And I was like, yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Same.
I have way less stress with it sounds weird to some people, but I stress less with all the weight on my shoulders and knowing that I can make the decisions that'll impact what immediately impact what happens, versus having to file stupid paperwork that I know doesn't matter just because somebody said that I have to. You know, that was more frustrating and stressful to me than just having all the pressure on myself. I don't know why, but people are just wired differently, I suppose.
Oh yeah, we're all different, and if we were all the same, it would be boring. So it
would be.
So it's funny how.
With that in mind, I was curious. Did any of the other builders that you work with were like, "Oh man, you're crazy for doing this," or were they? All of them. Oh, all of them.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, no, actually, Dale Wilson. He was, I think, probably the only one that was like, he saw, like, I told him my plan, and he was like, "Yeah, you're gonna do fine. You'll be good." Like I think he was the only one. But everybody was like, "Yeah, you're crazy. What are you doing?" Everybody was scared, and you know, I wasn't scared. I felt it was gonna work, but it was always the unknown. Like, what if it doesn't? You know, the doubt. But it didn't stop me. It was just like, this is what I'm gonna do. I made my mind up, and I did it, and it's working out so far.
We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby, because let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Goodhertz. It's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblintsaudio.com. I think you're going to like what you find.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I asked myself that question too. What if it doesn't work? And the answer I came back to is, well, I got this job.
Yeah.
I guess I'll try to get another. If it doesn't work out, I'll try to get another job, I guess is the answer. I think people do worst case scenario that, like, well, what if it doesn't work? Well, so who cares? Like if it doesn't work out, then do whatever you were doing before. I know that's probably a little bit difficult with being a master builder at Fender. That's probably a little bit difficult to just roll right back into. But there's always somebody looking for that skill set in some trade.
Yeah, it was funny because when I left, I got a lot of phone calls from different companies, and that was pretty nice that they noticed me. You know what I mean? I don't know, I've been very like insecure and just I didn't think anybody paid attention, and so or really cared or noticed, and I was totally wrong, and that was kind of eye opening and encouraging, and I just it was great to see to know that people care and people notice you for what you do, and sometimes it's just I find it more fulfilling because now I was able to hire an apprentice, Connor Moore, and he's I've been teaching him and showing him how I do things, and he's picking it up pretty quick. But just the fact that I could help somebody else or employ somebody else to to bring somebody else to a different level, or to help them in their career on what they want to do, and that's more fulfilling. Like I feel like I have more impact in the world, and to help my neighbor, I guess, to help just to help people. And when you're not living solely on yourself, and it's more fulfilling that way. I'm finding when you are trying to live for others and not yourself, and that was something that was hard for me. I think it was just I think I'm just naturally very selfish, but knowing that you are and trying to change it is kind of like the first step to self awareness.
Yeah, it is it's underrated. Helping others is almost it feels so nice that it can almost be selfish feeling sometimes, which sounds very like hoity-toity and look at me, but it really does feel nice to throw people a bone, just like you see somebody that needs it and you're in a position to be able to help them do whatever. I mean, even holding the door, like whatever it is, it feels good to most people. And I think a lot of people who are really miserable would be shocked to find how much that does for them.
Yeah, the same with me. When I feel like when I'm like hyper focused on myself and what I'm feeling and what I'm doing, I feel more depressed. And when I focus all my energy on others, my wife, my kids, people around me, friends, when I take myself out of the picture, I don't feel sad. I don't feel depressed. I don't, and I'm learning that. It's like, just let go of yourself. Don't care so much about what you want, what others want. And so I like that. and when you take focus off of yourself and focus on others, I think you become happier. You become a happier person. And I think I'm just
You do.
naturally just, you know, I guess a depressed person, I suppose, but you know, I haven't felt like that in a long time. And so I think I found something that works. So I'm going to keep doing it.
I think that's a good plan. So switching gears a little bit, before we get into the classic questions and wrap this episode up, we were talking briefly off the air about Nashville, and you know, we were talking about some of the guitars behind me, that Equit specifically, how Kevin moved to Nashville, and just there's a lot of people migrating to Nashville. It's funny, I know at least 3 Californians that are in Nashville now, specifically to do music related things for the most part.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you said it was sort of tempting to you as well. What have you been thinking?
Yeah, I had a couple offers to come out there, and you know, I just I don't know, I feel like I'm just I like to be different, I guess, or a loner, or I don't know what it is, but when I see everybody doing something, I always do the opposite, and I just that's just how I am. And so I just I don't know if it's consciously or subconsciously, but I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. I like to do my own thing. You know, when everybody else is doing this, I'm going to do the opposite, and that's just how I function, I guess. But you know, it's tempting though. I mean, that just on paper, that should be the move. You know what I mean? But I'm fortunate and enough, and I'm lucky enough that I'm able to make it out here in California, where it's really expensive, and I'm doing pretty good where I could, you know, survive out here on my own, and that's something that I'm blessed with, and I'm grateful for, and but yeah, if everybody is doing it, I'm probably not going to do it, and that's probably the only thing that kept me away. So, but yeah, they have their own thing out there. They have a great guitar building community now, and you know, one of the best musician city, you know, in the world, I think, and
oh, absolutely.
But we got the same thing over here in California, in Southern California, you know, and like a 20-mile radius, you got some of the best guitar builders in the world are out here in this, you know, in Southern California, you know, where I'm at, and and you know, in just an hour away, you go down to, you know, downtown, and you got some great musicians and great bands coming in and out, and you know, we got the same things, but over there it's a little bit more magnified and a little bit more concentrated, I think. But over here, it's you know, it's I love California. I don't think I can move. My whole family's out here, and you know, that's one thing that keeps me grounded over here is my family, and you know, and Stephanie's family.
I super relate to that. It would make all the sense in the world for me to move to Nashville. String Joy's in Nashville. Yeah. I got lots of friends in Nashville. It's really, truly my home away from home at this point. I go there multiple times a year, and I absolutely love it there. My family loves going there. It's a wonderful place, and it would make so much sense for my career for me to move there. But all my family's here in Oregon, and I'm an Oregon boy, and I'm even more specifically like a Willamette Valley Oregon boy. Like I can go to Eastern and Southern Oregon, and I'm like, it's beautiful, this is great, but I love this area. I love the Willamette Valley area, and I'm just like born and raised. You know, I grew up, got out of my parents' house. Was like, I'm gonna be my own independent man now. I moved a mile and a half away. And never moved any further than that.
Oh man, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's the right. I think that's the right move. You know what I mean? Because I did the same thing, and you know, we moved a little bit further from my parents now. But I'm realizing now, man, my kids. You know, I've never been a parent before, Like how the hell what am I doing? You know what I mean? But my but my parents have, you know what I mean? They have so much knowledge and wisdom that we can glean from, and I think that grandparents are a bit underrated, and the elderly
Oh
for the
yeah.
most part. But I'm realizing, man, like our kids need their grandparents, they need their cousins, they need their aunts and uncles, and those are that big family type of um, you know thing is very crucial, I think, to kids, and so that's why I need to be around my family. We're a tribe,
Mm-hmm.
and we depend on each other, and it's nice to know that if any of my family members needed help, I could just drive out there, no problem, and be there in a heartbeat. And the same with me, you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So I don't see the benefit of doing everything on your own and living on your own. And, because what the hell do you know? you know?
Yeah, I grew up with a very large family, and I've said this on the podcast before, and people are like, "Wait, what?" But I had between like great greats and greats and all that, I had 11 parents / grandparents, great grandparents, blah blah blah, when I was born, and most of them lived locally, like within a half hour or so. So there's like a picture of me with all my grandpas when I was
awesome.
A little baby,
Yeah.
and it was a really great experience. It really, really was. And as much as possible, I'd like to have my kids have a similar experience, because it was really beneficial to grow up with, my great great grandpa going over there, and, or excuse me, my great great was gone, but my great grandpa and grandma, and going over there for like, I don't even know, like 10 years mowing their lawn, talking to them, like learning the from their experiences. It's crazy to think that most kids don't see their great grandpa. I was not only fortunate enough that they were still alive, but that they were still alive for quite a while.
Wow, that's awesome.
While throughout my childhood. Yeah. And I really truly got to know them as people. They were alive till I think my great grandpa passed when I was like 16 or 17.
Oh, wow.
And so I was there the whole time.
Yeah.
So it was a really, really good experience for me. And I'm with you. I can't leave simply for that reason alone. On top of it, I love Oregon.
Yeah,
so, but yeah, we're getting close to the end of the episode. And I have a couple of classic questions I like to wrap up with.
Sure.
But before I do, this is where I like to give the guests the opportunity to plug anything they want to plug, shout out anybody they want to shout out, whatever you want to do. The floor is yours to talk to a couple thousand people right now.
Oh man, I don't need to plug anything. I'm just really happy just to be here and talking with you, and I appreciate you inviting me and just to share my story. I guess that's really, I don't have anything to plug. I'm doing good, and as if people don't know me by now, I mean, they could just check us out.
And for the audio people, he pointed at his hat. So go check out his guitars. The links for all that will be in the show notes. And you definitely should go check those things out. They're beautiful. All right. Final questions. First one. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
Oh, the Boss pedal? Oh, I don't know. I like what do I have? The digital delay I had for a long time, and what was that green overdrive one? I had those. Man, I had so many pedals throughout the years, and I had I think I've had every, at some point, every like pedal, but I still have my board. I don't use it too much, but yeah, I think the digital delay one's probably my favorite. You could do so many
DD3.
Yeah, you could do because before, they had like the tap tempo back in, the 90s. You had to kind of preset, the right tempo to get the, whatever you're trying to do. And so I remember, dialing that in, and at gigs, the tempo would be all over the place, and readjusting the tempo for the delay to match. You know what I mean? I like that. That was cool. That was fun times for me. but I think
I agree. Yeah.
you remember those? I think it was back in the '90s. Those what is those DoD pedals? I remember getting the grunge pedal at
I
the
have
mall.
one.
Oh, you have one? Man, those things are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I remember that because I wanted to sound like Kurt Cobain. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get the grunge pedal. Yeah, that'll give me the sound that I needed. So that was fun.
And then it was like a super high gain, like ridiculous distortion. Like, well, this doesn't sound like Kurt Cobain. What's going on?
Oh,
we didn't know. We just needed a DS1.
I had the metal zone. I had the metal zone for a bit.
Yeah.
That was fun. Oh, you got one?
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Here's one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That brings back memories.
I'm an addict. I have way too many pedals. Way too many pedals. But they're just laying all over.
Yeah, it's cool.
Just kind of out of screen. But yeah, good stuff. So the DD3, we'll go with that. I like that. I just got my first DD3 myself. I actually got a DD2 and a DD3 from the same guy. And they're the exact same pedal.
Oh.
But like the long chip DD2 and the DD, they're identical, but one says 2 and one says 3, and I don't know. I just like to collect pedals. Yeah. It's a sickness. So
it's fun.
All right, final question. This one gets a little bit dicey, a little bit weird, a little bit controversial. But what is your favorite kind of pizza?
Oh man, there's this. I like I don't know. I like all pizzas. I think like the deep dish pizza, I kind of want to say it's not a pizza. It's more like a casserole, but I love it though.
Yeah, it's still good. Yeah. I agree.
I don't know. There's this place in Eagle Rock, kind of an hour away from me. It's called Casa Bianca, and it's owned by this, old Italian couple. But they make the best pizza. It's just, I don't know what they do, but it's the greatest pizza. It's thin. It's just, has a lot of flavor. Pepperoni and olives is my go-to, and that's I don't know what style it is. It's just a great pizza. So,
all right, I like it. Is it like a wood fired thing? Is it like a little 12-inch?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, I love that. No. Well, that's another one I got to add to the list. That sounds phenomenal.
I guess I got to get pizza today now.
It's Friday, so it just makes sense, right?
Yeah, me and Stephanie, we've been going to bed, pretty late because of the holidays and everything. And so, we get those sudden cravings at the end of the night. And last night I was like, oh, I feel like eating pizza. So that's kind of been on our minds for the last couple of days.
It sounds like you got to make a trip to Eagle Rock tonight.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Nice. All right, everybody. Thank you, dude, for coming on. This was a really great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and we'll get into some nonsense on Patreon if that sounds good to you.
Let's do it.
All right, everybody. For Carlos, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, folks, thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for all the support on the podcast. Please make sure you go check out Carlos's work at CastedosaGuitars.com. He didn't want to plug, but I'll go ahead and do it for him. You really, really need to check these things out. They are simply incredible. And I also think you will really enjoy the Patreon conversation I had with him. We got into some weird stuff, and it was very fun to see him light up with a conversation he did not expect to be having, but was very, very, very relevant to his interests. So that was a lot of fun. And you can access all of the back episodes, all of the bonus episodes, and the ad-free version of this podcast by going to patreon.com/tonemob. If you go to patreon.com/tonemob for $5 a month, you'll get access to the ad-free feed and the bonus episodes, including the whole back catalog and the ongoing bonus conversations that happen every single week. And for $3 a month, you will get access to the ad-free feed. So if you don't like the new ad format, I totally understand that, but I got to pay the bills, and I wanted to give a cheap option to people who really just did not like that. So $3 a month will get you the ad-free feed, and $5 a month will get you the ad-free feed and the bonus episode. So please go check that out if you're able. And if you're not able to, of course, I would ask that you could share it. Share this with somebody who you think would like it. Tell somebody about it. That is the way this show has kept growing. That is the way that this show still exists to this day. It was in the top 5% of podcasts shared on Spotify last year. And I'd like to see it get up into the 3% if we could. So sharing is caring. Please share these things with people who you think might be interested. Or like some podcasts I listen to say, force your friends to listen to it. And you may just make them a new fan. If you're on a road trip, hey, you got the aux cord. People still have aux cords these days, right? That's a thing. Yeah, just put on the podcast. Just let your friends hear this rambling nonsense. That's what they want. That's what everybody wants. I'm of course kidding. Sort of. Okay, maybe I'm not. I'll let you decide. But either way, I will talk to you on the internet very, very soon. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.
Hi, this is Paul Phelps.
And this is Monica Strutt.
And we're from the Daily Music Business Podcast. We're joined by a number of other really great hosts in creating daily content with great advice for independent musicians just like you.
That's right. We put out episodes daily on all topics from music marketing to branding, advice on signing with a manager and label, and anything else you need to up-level the business side of your music career. We've got it covered.
Subscribe to the Daily Music Business Podcast today on your favorite podcast catcher.
Subscribe today to the Daily Music Business Podcast on your favorite podcast platform.
Hey, this is Dewey Halpus, host of Peer Pleasure on the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. Join me each week as I explore another long-form conversation with one of your favorite musicians, actors, comedians, or creatives. From Chino Moreno of the Deftones, John Gorley of Portugal the Man, to Fat Mike from NoFX and Ian MacKaye from Fugazi and Minor Threat, we go all over the map. From Fall Out Boy to Slayer, Peer Pleasure has it all. Check us out now on Sound Talent Media.